I'm cringing so hard at myself. I hate this.
It's
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast Movie Show. That is the movie review podcast that explores itself, explores ourselves, and explores the self in general. My name is Ty. I'm going to be one of your co-hosts.
and I'm your other co-host who really loves cassette tapes for some reason. Distance.
You know they don't have cassette tapes 30 years in the future, right? You're going to have to get them all now before you make the jump.
I know what they do have though.
What's that?
Spikes.
They do have white spikes. And if you couldn't tell, tonight is the Metacast Movie Show about The Tomorrow War. The Tomorrow War is a 2021 sci-fi film directed by Chris McKay and written by Zach Dean.
It stars Chris Pratt, Ivan Strahovski, J.K. Simmons, and Betty Gilpin.
This movie had a very high budget for a direct to streaming release of $200 million. And of course, as I just said, no box office take because it went straight to Prime Video.
It's got a tomato meter rating of 55% with an audience score of 82%.
Another one with a really big discrepancy between the audience and critics. Like, I'm always interested when that happens, where it's like, I'm always interested in the reason for that. But the stage for Tomorrow War is set by the arrival of a group of time travelers that came from the year 2051, who inform us, 28 years in the past, that in the future, mankind is losing a war against an alien invasion, and a mix of present-day military and civilians need to be sent to the future and assist in hopefully turning the tide of the battle. The high school biology teacher saves the day. That's a trope we get all too often. So it is fresh out of development hell. This is a movie that wasn't really sure if it was ever going to be released. After spending $200 million on it, of course we were gonna see it eventually, but one that COVID delayed quite a bit, and then apparently Amazon purchased for some amount greater than the $200 million budget, which is kind of interesting. My first initial thoughts of this, I didn't go into this expecting really anything. I knew almost nothing about it. I saw a few seconds of a trailer before watching it, which told me, kind of like, oh, it's gonna be sci-fi. There's aliens. Interesting. I do love Chris Pratt, so I did have that expectation that I was like, oh, well, at least I'm probably gonna like his character because even in like Jurassic World and movies like that, even though I hated the film themselves, I still kind of enjoyed the part that Chris Pratt plays normally. So this does have, in my opinion, some great visual effects. You can really see the budget there. there's quite a bit of it that looks really, really cool. And as I expected, Chris Pratt is just a great actor. I thought he was really cool in the part that he played. He's always just, super charismatic. He steals the scene a lot. It bugs me in quite a few ways. There are a lot of the cut the bullshit moments where it's just like, all right, how did that happen? Come on. There's quite a few moments where I really said to my screen, come on. But honestly, that was not enough for me to lose my suspension of disbelief. I did actually still enjoy it through all that. One of the things that did bug me the most, I thought we were getting away from this trope in gun action movies. I thought that John Wick and a lot of the other, more accurate gun movies that came out that actually show reloading and people running out of ammo, I thought we were starting it, but this is one of those movies where apparently in the future, in 30 years, you just don't need to reload. People make it a point to check magazines and actually pick up extra magazines, but then somehow their 30-round mag has, 120 shots in it. It's no idea how that happens. It must be future technology that I do not understand. That's all that I could chalk it up to. But to give this a verdict, I did enjoy this. I mean, it's a popcorn flick. If you go into this expecting some mind-bending movie that's gonna, change your world, you're gonna be sorely disappointed. But to give it a verdict, I enjoyed it enough to give it a yes, with the caveat that I would not start a Prime subscription for this. I don't think it's worth that. If you already have Prime, I think it's worth your time in it. But this is not something I would say you need to go out and immediately get Prime to see. But what about you? How do you feel about this one?
I disagree with one major thing. Those were clearly 127,000 round magazines. Because those things were like, brr, brr, brr. I think that might have just actually noise filtered what the sound I made.
Oh, I heard it. I heard it.
Okay, they fired very quickly.
Yeah.
So like there's a little bit of the gun stuff in there. There's one particular thing I'm gonna mention later in the episode about a particular kind of that really irked me regarding the sort of the realism of the firearms. Yeah, this movie. I mean, I had a couple issues with it. I tend to hate time travel movies. Without spoiling it, there are a few things that they did in the story that were able to actually fill some of the major plot holes that you see in time travel films, which I thought was cool. It pissed me off a lot less. But there's still the weird, like, the sort of strange paradoxes and stuff that happen. But it's like you said, it's a popcorn movie, so don't waste your time thinking about it. I thought the aliens were cool. I thought they did a really interesting job of making them scary in a way that's very primal. Like they did in a few ways suspiciously much remind me of Edge of Tomorrow aliens.
Same. Yep.
Another good sci-fi, because basically what I thought was like, okay, Chris Pratt Edge of Tomorrow is what I'm about to watch. Different film. I liked Edge of Tomorrow better. But I mean, this movie has some emotion in it. It has some humanity in it. I think they picked the right people for the roles. I thought they were a little heavy-handed with the comic relief in a few spots. But when I got done watching this movie, my thoughts were, that was fun. I'm like, I like that. I was like, that was an excellent movie, because I was never bored. I was always entertained. It was super late. And I was like, when I started watching it, and I was like, man, I might need to finish this tomorrow when I started. And I was like, man, I can't finish this tomorrow. I got to finish this now.
Cool.
The story's cool. The weird twists kind of ish are cool. There's a little bit of character development with a few of the characters in ways that I think is pretty awesome. And I felt a lot of introspection for this movie. So once again, while it's not some amazing film that's, some groundbreaking sci-fi that's going to just screw up your whole life because of how crazy it is.
It's not Arrival, right?
It's not Arrival. But nowhere near Arrival, mind-bending. But yeah, I think that this is one that that I got to give a yes to, because I've been disappointed with sci-fi recently, and I was not optimistic going into this movie. But yeah, I mean, it's watch it. But yeah, I think I agree with Ty. This is not one that you should pay for Prime just to see the movie. There have been a few movies where I've done that. Like, stuff comes out on Disney Plus, and I'll actually subscribe for a month just to watch it. This is not one of those movies. But if you have Prime, it's in the subscription. Spend a couple hours on it. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Yeah. This is one where I would say, I did not feel like I wasted my time, so they wouldn't have to. I feel like I spent my time in a way that I enjoyed it, and I feel like others should probably do the same. So this is, we could bring Spoiler Terry out from the future, from 28 years in the future. Spoiler Terry is here, and
that's gonna be a crazy edit.
Oh God. What am I doing?
Why do you do this to yourself?
Just kidding.
It's a Spoiler Terry in the present, from the present.
He already looks old. I can't edit him from the. Maybe I could just make a purple puff around him so it looks like he came from the future. And I'll figure that out.
You should get him some of that metrosexual scruffle.
God, that was my favorite line. Fuck. Okay. All right.
Was it really?
No. I do have that in my notes though, because I thought that line was great. That was another. God, I actually forgot to mention. I wanted to say how good of a job I thought J.K. Simmons did in his role too. That was I kind of mentioned Chris Pratt playing a great role, but also I thought Simmons was great as well. Yeah.
He almost got. I would say he was typecast for that one pretty hard.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean that's kind of the role he plays anyway. Except for that, it wasn't he Jameson in Spider-Man with a mustache?
Yeah.
That was terrible.
What? I thought that was a great cast. He's he's back in the new Spider-Man as Jameson again. Like in the post-credit scene of the last Spider-Man movie, he shows up as Jameson again.
He was Commissioner Gordon in one of the DC movies.
Yep, he was in. Which one?
He's
was
all
that?
over the place with supporting characters.
Yeah. I like him though. I've always liked him. He's just got a good like commanding presence. He played again, like circling back to this movie, he played that estranged father role really well, where he was just kind of like the wanted to be there, but you could tell why he wasn't for a while. Like I enjoyed his role in this. I did. All right, so I do think. Well, okay, I was gonna start to jump towards stuff at the end, but let's try to go through like the chronological stuff first. One of the first things I thought was really, really cool. So it is kind of silly, the whole like high school biology teacher saves the day, but they, like you said, they use the trope of like, oh, he's X-Men, which the line too was great, where he's like talking to Charlie and he's like, yeah, it's a long story. He's like, what, you're ex-military? He's like, yeah, I guess it's a pretty short story. That was perfect. That was a good, like, I think that was one of the moments where the comic relief wasn't too heavy-handed, but I can definitely tell some of the moments you were talking about where it was a little much, but yeah, I do think that there were moments in this of the comic relief used in the right way, and I think a lot of that is just down to Pratt's performance. Even like, it's like he is just that kind of like, I mean, he's Star-Lord, man. Like he plays that role so well, and that's kind of like he doesn't really change a lot for each role. It's
dude,
what?
This is not about the movie at all, but I need to foreshadow a little bit with you.
Okay.
That you talking about Chris Pratt just now will make sense when I present on our next episode of Metacast Music Dudes. And you'll understand when it actually happens. But I'm just going to put that thought in your head right now.
All right. I'm pumped to see how that ties in. Yeah, just like Ellie said, like he really does play the same guy in everything. He has, but I don't hate it though. Like there are some of those actors where they play the exact same role and I get sick of it, but I haven't gotten sick of the Chris Pratt role yet. The only thing he was like slightly, ever since Burt Macklin, I was gonna say the only thing he was slightly different in was Parks and Rec, because he was like, the actual Andy role was way dumber and way goofier. But like ever since he did start putting on the serious face, like you're saying, as Burt, then it's really been that role over and over again. He's the same dude in Jurassic Park or Jurassic World. Yeah, same dude in the Marvel movies. Yeah.
I mean, Ryan Reynolds is the same character. Bruce Willis is more or less the same character. I'm not tired of Bruce Willis yet. I'm getting there with Ryan Reynolds. Not there yet. Not there yet.
I got to see Deadpool 3 before I make any decisions. Yeah, like now that Deadpool's in the actual MCU, I wonder what kind of references they're gonna be able to make. Like that's gonna be just a treasure trove of stuff. Like that's gonna be exciting.
They're gonna have to make up new walls to break, like 800th wall breaks.
Do you know why the fourth wall was called that? By the way, you know where that comes from? Like right now,
theater.
It's like right now in your framing. There is like there's a wall behind you, there's a wall next to you, there's a wall to your, like the fourth wall is the wall that would be between you and the camera. So like when you break that fourth wall, it's like, breaking through that, like if the room was completed in like, in theater or any sort of stage scene like that, like, it's the stage curtain. Exactly. Yeah. Which they also like in Naked Gun, they made a really funny joke about that, where one of the sets had like a door cut in it, but then Leslie Nielsen's character just walked around the front where there was no fourth wall to the room. It was just like an open front. Like, yeah.
And if you're watching and you haven't seen any of the Naked Gun films, they are the best stupid funny movies you will ever see. Like next to Airplane. So there was a lot here that I noticed too. Like the one major thing. Okay. If they came back in time and they wanted the most people to see them, and they seem to have come back to the United States.
Yep.
Why not a football game? Why a soccer game?
That is football. What are you hold on. We're an international audience here. That is a
American
football game.
American football. Like, I mean, I recognize that, but like, I have to be a stupid American right now. But I know that's, that football to the rest of the world is soccer. But so wait, hold on. Do you think that they did that for the international audience? Like, so overseas?
No.
Statistically, more people in the world care about
Yeah,
that
that's what I'm
football
saying.
than
If you're
American
talking
football.
about the most people to see you, it would be during, and even like, so for most of the year, the United States doesn't care about, what we call soccer or like real football. A lot of Americans do for the World Cup though. So it's like,
Yeah.
literally like that is the biggest sport on the planet at large, even though it's not the biggest sport in our country. At that point, when it is the World Cup, that is when our country all of a sudden starts to care about that sport. So I thought that scene made perfect sense. It was like, of course, yeah, they picked the World Cup when literally that is the moment that most of the world would have their eyes on at one point. Like, because if you were to pick like landing on the White House lawn, that is too American. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like I think that picks like that's the most for like the entire world. Yeah.
I thought I was playing the stupid American role, but I think I'm just a stupid American.
But I think I just take everything too seriously. I missed the joke.
Oh no, there was. I mean, it really like it was partially a joke, but I legitimately was wondering like why not American football? But it seriously makes sense now. Like the thing you said about biology teacher saves the day, like the scene where he's like in his place. He's like, I meant to do something great. I'm like, really, bro?
Yeah.
Really? Like that's up there with Predator when he's like, I ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah.
Like that's a really bro moment.
I did like the first half of that scene though, when it was like a touching moment with his daughter, and his daughter was telling him it's gonna be okay. He's like, "How am I supposed to be saying this to you?" Like, I don't know. Yeah, those are the moments where Chris Pratt, like, even though like we're saying, he always plays the same exact role, he does have like some range that's not bad. He's able to play like touching a little bit. Like, I swear I saw like a little tear welling up in his eye there. Like, yeah, dude's a good actor, man.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he did in the scenes where there was a little bit of emotion, just the right amount. He was able to do it, like, and what you would expect of like, like I know Marines and I've done jujitsu with Marines. I've hung out with Marines. I've gotten drunk with Marines, and there's a lot of the guys I've talked to was, if you have a problem, get a pack of Marlboros, get yourself some whiskey, and get over it. So he fits that kind of subdued emotion, like where you're trying to suck it back or like push it down, which by the way is unbelievably unhealthy.
True.
But he does that so well, like the macho man at the funeral. We've all seen it. You can see the lump in his throat, like he's gonna fucking bawl when he's alone. And for whatever reason, he's just trying to like, I don't know why, but at the funeral, just do that thing. But yeah, like I think he did a great job, because there's one thing to do the full-on cry, and it's another thing to do the sort of repressed one.
Yeah. It's so much easier to overact than do the subtle stuff. Yeah. Yep.
You hear that, Al Pacino? Well, I said repressed. I meant suppressed. That's the word. Suppressed. The suplexed.
They both work.
A wrestling move is done to the cry, and you like bang it on its head. The suplexed cry. All right. But I really just have a question about the future.
Mm-hmm.
What? Do you not have jokes in the future?
No, they lost their sense of humor. What are you talking about?
It's like humor has become unnecessary. In a lot of ways, I feel like they really did. But like when you're at the point where I guess your entire race is about to be extinct, maybe it is a moment where you.
Are you talking specifically about the draft scene where he gets brought in? Yeah, when
he's actually talking, he makes the joke. They're just sitting there like fucking statues, like oil painting.
I have in my notes here that it was like, yeah, like I mean, I understand they have a job to do. I understand that it's a big deal and everything, but like it seemed like that we've talked about it a few times in different movies where there's like certain roles and certain, I don't know if it had to have been the roles because it was everyone in the room. It's not that it's just one actor. We've talked about it before with like specific actors, but it's like where they're just going way over the top in that role of like, I mean, would they not just be somewhat more accommodating? Like, I know that like, again, I know you have a job to do and it's like all business and everything, but it's still like, yeah, you want to explain to the people what's going on, give them some sort of personability rather than just being like, almost like how cold can I make this? But
yeah, and I do think they really did go a little too far with those characters. And but it also kind of made me think that the way that they did this future war, the fact that Dan's dad was in Vietnam,
Mhm.
the climate sort of the war and the anti-war movement felt a lot like Vietnam to me.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And I kind of thought if something like this really did happen and you knew that more than likely if anybody that you cared about was going to go be, quote, I guess, deployed for 7 days in the future, that you would just know that they were going to die. Like that would just be the thought that you had in your mind. And
Yeah.
like how his wife handles it. And the scene where he comes into the sort of support group that she is kind of, I guess, I don't know what they're called, hosting, whatever. I guess she's the therapist for that group. And he walks in there and he shows her kind of the little jump band thing. The look on her face that Betty Gilpin did, that was really good acting.
Yeah.
The way that she makes the look, which is exactly what you would expect a real person to make when they're in a situation where they're supposed to hold it together because they're in a group where they're sort of the anchor.
Yep.
And get some bad news and you try to stop yourself from showing it, but you do anyway. It was just, it was good. There's just something about that where I paused the movie and like went back and watched it again, and I was like, man, she can act.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, I thought that was incredibly well done. Yeah, and yeah, getting to so you started to touch on it earlier how like they built into the plot of the movie the ways to kind of avoid some of the trope paradoxes where it's like I wondered when they were in the scene where he was getting drafted. I wondered why there was like, oh, he was qualified because he dies in 7 years basically before the war. And then it's like it didn't occur to me later though that it's like, yeah, everyone they sent back is so young they weren't even yet born in 2023. Like that's kind of a smart way of handling that where it's like, yeah, the people they send back are not going to run into their past selves. The people they send forward cannot run into their future selves. Like that was a neat thing they like baked into the story there. I liked that.
It's a nice little kind of just in case thing, and the fact that the way that they reveal it, they tell the audience, but it's not in a way that's stupid or wooden.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that when someone even asks the question, where it's like, well, why don't you just jump to then or here or whatever, and they're like, well, the jump bridge doesn't work that way. It's 30 years.
Yep.
Forward 30 years back, that's it.
Yep.
30 years, that's all we got.
And I love too that during that scene where they're explaining it, where they were like, the guy even says like, if this was an extinction level event, we'd still be jumping lab rats. It's like the necessity bred the innovation where it's like, okay, we have to do this. The technology isn't finished. Like we're still learning. We are not good at this, but it's like we just need to fucking do it. Like,
and what did they say? It was like pieced together with like chewing gum and chicken wire or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Yep.
That. I thought that was cool. Did you think that the dick joke that Dan makes about his dad with the 50 cal pistol is funny?
It a little bit, yeah. I mean, there is something like I mean, okay, being like you. I mean, I sometimes think the same things like at the range when it's a guy that like. I mean, okay, you shoot 9mm like me. Like, has anyone that shoots 45 ever told you that like, oh, that little thing's not going to do anything? You need one of these. It's like. Do you really like
only guys wearing Vietnam vet hats?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I think the one guy that actually said that to me, he was upset because my 1911 was a 9mm, and I'm pretty sure he was wearing a Vietnam vet hat.
But it is funny
like, because Dan's dad is in the movie.
Exactly, yeah, and it is a way overdone joke too, where it's like, I mean, I guess, yeah, it's not funny. I understand. It's the same thing when someone has like a huge lifted truck and someone makes the joke that they're or the sports car that they're compensating for something. Like it's just a joke that's been done to death that it's no longer funny to me. No, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the context of it was it fit the situation, it fit the character. And I think that maybe they just did it more for that dynamic between the two characters and to actually be funny. Fun fact, though, when he mentions the Bullet Mustang that you actually see later, that is a Mustang Mach 1 that Steve McQueen drove in the movie Bullet.
Okay.
And it has a specific green paint scheme. And I think there's a couple other things about that car that make it unique, but it's a Mustang Mach 1, which incidentally is my favorite muscle car. I love Mach 1s.
That's cool.
There is another. They're the coolest Mustang.
I didn't even think about that. That there is something funny about making a small penis joke towards your dad too, because of the genetics too. That it's like if you're joking that your dad has a small penis, it's like, well, hold on, like did it skip a generation too, or are you saying something about yourself as well, or what's the implication here? But
my mother called me an SOB one time. I was like,
don't talk about yourself like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Did you notice that when Dan is talking, I think he's talking to his daughter, he says what Arnold wanted to say in Terminator instead of what he actually said? I will be back.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Because Arnold didn't like the way that he says like "ow" kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to say "I will be back," and they said it'll be fine. And there's just something about that I was like, did they do that on purpose?
I wonder. Yeah. That'd be that'd be a clever little nod if they did. Like, another movie about, I mean, because, Terminator also is, time travel from the future for like a war thing. Like, yeah, that's interesting.
I wondered about it, and so much that I wrote it down. But for all the stuff that we're saying about how we liked that they sort of were able to kind of fill a few plot holes and that are in time travel movies, at the same time, there is still some stuff that was kind of dumb, even though we gave it lots of praise just now.
Yeah.
Wormhole.
Yeah, I guess well, you just have to come up with some name for it. They're just gonna call it's of course it's not a wormhole in the cosmic sense. But it's like they should have just called it like their own thing, like the jump bridge or whatever. Like, yeah, they're not opening an actual wormhole, but yeah, you're right on
as
that
long
one.
as they didn't put the word quantum in it, I guess I'm not that mad.
The quantum flux capacitor. I did kind of like how they had to have like the emergency deployment where they actually weren't even fully trained and ready because the base in the future was getting attacked, and it was kind of like the whole like necessity thing where it drove home that whole idea that like humanity is losing the war. It's not something stable. Like, it is like, we need all hands on deck, everyone. Like, I thought that was it gave a feeling of urgency to a lot of what was going on in the movie that I appreciated. I thought that was kind of cool.
And that whole scene, like when they jump, was like brutal to watch. Like watch me like hit the buildings and crap like that.
Well, yeah, just like Arzo said, the whole I did think that was kind of stupid. The whole like we fucked up the coordinates, and instead of them being 5 to 10 feet off the ground, all of a sudden they were just dropping into way above. Like, yeah, I mean, but I guess it is like they just set up in the scene right before that, like they are not good with the technology at all. They're only doing this because they need to like it's held together with chicken wire and chewing gum or whatever they said. Like, so it was it didn't take me out of it. I accepted that it was like, okay, yeah, they're fucking up. Yeah.
Correction, they really fucked up the coordinates.
Yeah.
And like that, the one thing that I thought they captured really well in the film, kind of like to your point that you're losing the wars, the sense of chaos. Like you have this sort of sense that everything's going to hell and that they're not exactly sure what they're doing. But I mean, and once again, like cheesy stuff. They're like, Forrester, it says here you're a Marine and you've commanded troops before.
Yep.
And that's kind of the joke you were making earlier about it. Like, and it's just it's a way to make the character more believable in doing what they're doing, but it's so overused. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, how else are they supposed to do it? Like I don't.
All right, so imagine the whole movie without that, but he was also at the high school. He was the coach, so he had to just lead the team like it was his basketball team or whatever. Like. Instead of giving him the prior military experience, he was just like, all right, we need Dean and you two drive up the court. We want you circling back behind. Okay. Okay. I did think like this. I knew fucking immediately. All right. So definitely spoiler territory. Oh my God. I can't say it correctly now. Spoiler territory. That's fucking tough. But Did you know immediately that Romeo Command was Miri?
I did not know immediately,
Okay.
but in the moment where I, it's like that's one thing we've talked about before. Like, I think that it's almost one of your goals, like, to figure out what's happening.
Maybe. It's so
It seems to me that
subconscious though.
it seems to me that you're always paying attention to that.
Well,
And
this one was a read from the actor, the way they played it. They very subtly show this whenever the subordinate brings Romeo Command the little, the board that says like, hey, this group landed here, they're going to be doing this search and rescue for you, led by Dan Forrester, and she has this split second reaction on her face and then goes into her dialogue, and it was like I caught that reaction that the actor purposefully did, and I was like, oh, that's because it's future Murray. Like it for some reason it clicked with me right there. Yeah.
I only got it at the moment that you hear her last name, because I am too dumb for plot twists.
Arzo. So I mean, you're right that if it was, but if you remember the context of that situation, they were emergency jumping to a different place because the research facility was being attacked. They changed all of the plans in that last moment. They were planning on dropping to that point since that's where our team was put. I misunderstood. I thought that they completely changed and they had to do it because the research center was being attacked right then. Either maybe I missed something that made that scene end up making more sense to me. Maybe you are right, but at least what I got from it was that the coordinates were changed last minute and had to be like an emergency thing. But I'm not 100% sure now. But
Yeah,
then
actually,
also,
now that I think about how rudimentary the system was, how would they really have the ability to choose, Or since it was so rudimentary, that's why they screwed up.
maybe, yeah. I don't know. Either way, it didn't take it out for it. Like that. I mean, like for a second I was like, yeah, why is this happening? But it did not, get rid of my suspension of disbelief at all there. But back to the.
I didn't skip a beat at all. I was like, take me with you.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I thought.
But back to the Miri thing real quick. I also right when I saw that recognition in the actor's face that she portrayed, it flashed back to the scene where he was being drafted and he didn't bring her birth certificate, so they didn't know who his daughter would be and then wouldn't avoid that. So it that also triggered that I was like, oh, they didn't know to make sure they didn't meet because he doesn't they don't know who his daughter is. So yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but yet another plot hole filled.
Yep.
But since we were on the subject of the jump, we kind of went back to it. There's I talked about this with Harrison Ford when the bar scene in Blade Runner, that a lot of actors have this look that they do. And that's when Harrison Ford does the Harrison Ford look, as I call it. He does it in Indiana Jones films too, in Blade Runner. Chris Pratt has a look too.
Oh yeah.
And he does his look at the scene at the beginning where you see him at the jump.
Yeah.
And then in the scene later when it actually happens, he does like his sort of look that he just does like in that part. And I thought it was really cool because I recognize that as his kind of expression.
Yeah.
But one thing I thought was really cool was as they begin to exit that research facility, that like doom and like tension music. Yeah. That is some of the like some of the best theatrical music that I've heard for a scene like that. And the fact that when they get to the stairwell, it's silence.
Yeah, I liked that it didn't build to like immediately opening the door into hell like you thought it would. I thought that was done really well. The contrast there was cool.
And the everything about that part, the scene where they've got the one guy, there's a I don't know what kind of lens they're using, but there's a weird lens, and it's the dude, I think his name was Cowan was his last name, and he's got his rifle, and he's kind of like beginning to look up. And the way they filmed that, the spot they picked for the camera, and the lens they decided to use, and the way that that he acted it and shot it, and the way that spoilers, that when you see someone puts their weapon light up there, and the eye is reflecting from the light, and it's got these fucking teeth, and like I just tapped out my notes right then. OMG, what the fuck is that?
I love like the way they purposely didn't show you the white spikes for so long and built up the anticipation of what they were going to look like. It was like in my mind, it was like, okay, they have to look really cool or this is going to be a major letdown. You know, it's like it's either this surprise, like, oh shit, they're just humans, or like, you know, something like way off third base that you wouldn't expect, or they're just going to be really fucking badass looking, which they did nail. I loved the design of the aliens. I thought they looked great for what they were. Like, yeah, I was impressed by it. And just like you're saying, the whole way they designed that reveal scene too, like, yeah, I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I mean the fact that it's like in the dark and it's just everything about it is super awesome. Just the way that they reveal it, and you know, like as they're walking through, you see the little spines that they shoot out. Like you can see them in everything.
Yeah.
And it's you just have, and like the one guy has a claw. You know, they give you like these little snippets of what they are, kind of, but not exactly. And they even tell you that the reason why they never showed anybody what the white spikes looked like is because there's no way anybody would have actually gone.
Yep.
That was kind of comforting.
Funny. Yeah. I do. I liked before that. So, I mean, I guess you are right. There is part of me that is always trying to like guess something or figure something out too. And like right before that, walking through the labs, there was this bit that I thought was just going to be way too obvious foreshadowing, where one of the characters tells them that white spikes can smell blood from a mile away, and then you see a bunch of spikes to the wall, and it's like, oh, someone's going to accidentally cut themselves on one, then they're going to all come running. Like I know what's going to happen. And I was wrong. I love that. I love that was like not at all what happened. And they set it up in a way that to me at least was like way too obvious, and it was not actually what happened. I'm a fan of when that happens.
And I mean, I'm just so much of a caveman when watching movies that didn't even occur to me for me to be wrong. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting to me the way that you kind of, when you're watching a movie, there's just stuff that you like pick up on, and there's only certain times where I think to myself, like, I know how I would have written this, but it's not as often as you. Like, I don't know. I just don't pick up on plot stuff like that. I wish I did, or maybe I wish I didn't. I don't know.
Sometimes it's not fun.
But I did jot down a few things about, like, because okay, in an action film, I feel like you have to talk about guns. Like that's just part of what happens in an action film and the way that they do them. I thought that the really bright flashes from this short-barreled rifle that I think they were all using short-barrel rifles. Okay. I thought that was a really cool touch. I know that they were just doing what they do when you shoot blanks out of them. But the way that they filmed a couple shots from the front, looked really cool.
I love the foregrips they chose to use. That like futuristic style that it's in Tarkov too, which I throw it on rifles all the time. I love that foregrip. I think it's cool.
They're very space looking. And the scene when they kill that first white spike, where he like uses the fire axe, and then the scary dude like slides and like shoots it with a shotgun. I'm like, wow, okay, that's all right. Nice action film scene, guys. But one thing I noticed was that Chris Pratt, he was moving really, really, really well with his weapon. That kind of I assume there's a name for it, but there's a specific type of style of walking that's intended for you to stabilize your rifle.
Has his arm at the right angle and everything too. Like, he looks very in command of his rifle.
He does it well, and he looks very convincing. Which another little thing that bothered me. How is it that Charlie had no idea how to manipulate his weapon until right before they jumped?
Well, you know, they didn't get their full training, man. He literally had to show him the charging handle right there on the jump pad and everything. He was trying to put the magazine in backwards. A lot of that was pretty dumb.
After you see a scene where someone says, "I'm not your friend, but this gun is," like, really? The person that said that didn't teach everybody? Like, did Charlie just not pay attention? I don't know. It just seems silly to me. But then once again, that does that Vietnam thing, because a lot of the people that were deployed in Vietnam, like, a lot of them just weren't really ready, and they weren't trained particularly well.
True.
Not everybody. So like, I really feel like, because, you know, like in Starship Troopers, they try to make it like a World War II propaganda kind of feel.
Yeah.
And And I wonder how much of this film, with the way that a lot of the stuff happens in the movie and the fact that Dan's dad was in Vietnam, I wonder how much of a Vietnam vibe they were trying to give.
I definitely,
But,
I
you know,
got that, and then also kind of the vibe of, well, I don't want to use the word vibe again, but like kind of mapping it to present day times too, of a lot of what goes on politically and like the divisions and everything. But yeah, I think that there is like a great parallel there. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, Arza just pointed out something too, that like how horribly ineffective all the guns were. Like it was like, I mean, so okay, the white spikes are this race that, you know, are apparently very difficult to kill. They have 2 weak spots that are, you know, like you basically have to obliterate to kill them. But it is like, it did seem weird that it's like, okay, why did we not, the first team that comes back and tells us, why did we not all of a sudden start developing ammunition that would be somewhat more effective? Like it seems like we're just firing normal ball rounds at them, that it's like, all right, we hope that with our 127,000 round magazine we'll be able to kill one. Like, but yeah, that was kind of a yeah. Also too,
they also weren't consistent with it.
Yes, that definitely bugged me. And same thing with, like you just brought up with the, I fucking forget the character's name that came back and slid with the shotgun, but it's like that too was out of character for that character. He was just telling you before that it's like, yeah, trying to save other people is going to get you killed. That's not something you want to waste your time doing. And then he runs back into when he was away from the situation to save Chris Pratt, basically. Like that was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, kind of weird to me.
I felt like for the character, they had to give him a moment to look scary because of how they portrayed him. But there's a lot of other ways they could have done that.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they needed to. Yeah, they didn't need to shatter everything he was saying before that with making him act in the complete other way. Like I do know that it shows that, okay, maybe what he's putting up is a bit of a front, and you know what you learn later about the character and his motives and everything, it starts to make sense that he isn't just some hard ass the entire time. It's like he's kind of hiding some pain that's going on with himself with that. So I mean, I can respect that, but at that point in the movie it was just kind of like, so why did this dude come back to save him when he was telling him 30 seconds ago not to do that? Like,
yeah, and that's something I didn't really think about that because I was just too impressed with like I mean, that was like legitimately, that looked like it was straight out of a Call of Duty game.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It really did.
Except for the enemy, right? Call of Duty hasn't started to bring in aliens yet. I think next Call of Duty will probably have it.
Call of Duty aliens. It's only a matter of time before they do.
Yeah, they are. I mean, yeah, there's been a few future Call of Duties, right? They're not all like modern and past, right? Isn't there?
There was the one like where I think you could like walk on walls and shit. I didn't play it. Yeah. But yeah, they just need to add aliens, and then we're there. Yeah. Then we've got the Tomorrow War, the game.
Honestly, that is one thing that occurred to me while watching this. Is like it would be a badass shooter. Like I would have a lot of fun playing that against that type of bullet sponge enemy where you had to set up like it literally like, all right, like that's one thing I like about certain games like that. Whenever like some of the enemies are just a check, like have you picked up enough ammo to kill this yet? Like,
yeah, and. Actually, I mean, the problem is video games based on movies tend to be garbage. But if somebody actually took the time to develop a cool one based on this, it would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta wonder. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna talk about that later in the episode. Never mind. I was gonna say a thing, but I'm not saying a thing now. Gotcha. Did you this is sort of going back a bit in the film before he jumps. The scene where he's in the classroom, and the kids in there just don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, what a strange sense of nihilism to have. Like, what did you think about that? Like, I mean, I guess maybe like what are your thoughts and feelings on that scene?
You know, let's put a pin in that, and let's get back to that during the self-reflection section. That's going to tie heavily into what I want to talk about. So, yeah,
okay. Well, then there's another thing I want to say about that. Then you guys, science is the key.
I liked that. I do kind of like that.
I mean, it was okay. Like
So what he actually said was, I know it seems bad. If there's one thing in the world that needs right now, it's scientists. We cannot stop innovating. That is how you solve a problem. Science is important, so we just need to focus up. But it would have been better if he said, come on, guys, science is the key. I would have liked that scene a lot more.
I was just in that moment. I was like, I thought to myself, like, why didn't they cast Bill Nye as this character?
That would have been that would have been, oh my god, imagine this movie with Bill Nye as the actual lead. Not just that scene, all the rest of it too.
Bill Nye running around with a rifle shooting aliens.
Oh god.
Well, I mean, there's actually a series. I don't know if I can't remember where it might be on Netflix called Bill Nye Saves the World.
Yeah.
So I mean,
we have the technology now with deepfakes. I want to see a few scenes of this movie with Bill Nye's face on Chris Pratt's body, him walking around with the rifle and everything. That would be hilarious. I'm into that so much.
I actually wouldn't. I would pay, not a lot, but I would pay to see that. I didn't want to talk about something because it's funny. I just talked about your tendency to try to figure things out. Mm-hmm. There was a moment where I did. Okay. Every now and then I grow a bit of a brain watching a movie. It doesn't happen often. But I thought that, well, okay, first of all, let me offer some praise to the filmmakers because of the fact that the way that it was written, I think, created a lot of possibilities for the audience to consider. Mm-hmm. That there's a lot of ways that they keep things just secret enough, and then they reveal things at just the right time, and they have the characters say stuff in just unclear enough terms that there's I thought that when she said, "The last time I saw you was the day you died," and the fact that the whole "it's better if you don't know" and all this stuff, I was under the impression that what happened was but it would have created a paradox in the film, but hey, it's a time travel film, so who cares? Mm-hmm. I thought that the last time she saw him was when he left to go be deployed, and he sacrificed himself while in the past to somehow save the world, in the future, sorry, to somehow save the world. Yeah, I thought that that's what the story was going to be, but then but then if that happened, then how is she where she is now? And so later on, I recognized it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, but but it left it open in a way that at least your brain was starting to like think about that or wander there. Yeah.
Or like, does she know that does she, like, the whole idea that like when he leaves, like, is that something that's going to happen anyway? And he only leaves his family because she told him he was going to. But then once again, another like loop, like paradox. It doesn't make any sense. So,
and at least the way he says it at the end, it's almost like he knows now better and is not going to do that, like not make that mistake. Yeah, at least that's what I got from the ending little like monologue thing. Yeah.
That he like learned something from his daughter that is not the person that his daughter is going to be because the future is not going to happen.
Yeah. Arzo had an interesting point that made me think for a second. He was saying another confusing thing to me, like they got the toxins, but why no delivery method? And I did start to think, it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, why would they not have been also trying to develop like he's saying, like tranquilizer guns or something as a better way to deliver the toxin? But in my mind, it did kind of at least make sense. It's like, oh, well, they were out of resources in that time. The war was almost over. They like the same reason why she didn't have the resources to even begin to produce the toxin, in that they literally only had one vial that he was supposed to take back in time and then start producing then. Which kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff, because earlier when you were talking about the ammo, like why didn't they come up with different types of ammunition to kill the spikes? And I was going to say something like, oh well, would they have had the resources? But they had helicopters and fuel for those helicopters, and those things fucking drink fuel. They had all kinds of supplies for all kinds of stuff. They had Hummers with fuel. They had 50 cal rounds. They had 50 cal weapons. Like there's just that it's weird because there's just more of that kind of inconsistency. Maybe because you didn't get a general feeling of scarcity. Yeah. And maybe that's unrealistic. Maybe it's possible that there would be larger supplies of some things versus other things. You know, I mean, they had a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of things you look at where it's like, well, if they had this, why couldn't they do that? But something I say in almost every episode, the plot must go on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
They,
just like
they're
I'm kind of half being devil's advocate right now to Arzo because he's
right,
saying, you know,
right.
like, well, he said like they had time to produce barrels of the toxin but no trank guns. Which when they came back to the Back to the Future is what I was gonna say, but Back to the Past, they didn't have any support from the military though. Remember they tried to go to, I forget what.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. He actually said when they go back to the past.
Yeah, but
Well, I mean, they had no cooperation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I forget the rank of that guy they went to, who then later on TV claimed that it was all his idea or whatever. Of course, as a politician would do, right?
I mean, his dad was filthy rich.
Yes, but
That's also the point. I think that
which yeah, his dad had the what was it, AC. Was an AC 130? I forget what the actual aircraft was, but it's not like they just have access to anything they want. You know, it's like, sure, like if you had enough time, you could probably get your hands on a lot of that equipment, but I don't think it would be, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm half playing devil's advocate, but at least like it wasn't, I don't know, it was not deal breaking to me. It made sense in the universe of the movie that like they don't just have access to everything they want, you know, like, but
I mean, they time was they had a lot of time.
that is true. Time was
They
definitely
didn't
on their
have to
side.
rush.
Yeah. Well, no,
They kinda,
hold on. There was another like kind of other than the aliens, you know, attacking. There was another time limit at the end, which was the like civil unrest that was going on. You know, like they were
yeah,
kind of
that's
fighting
true.
against like humanity against themselves at that point, where literally like, I mean, the whole reason they couldn't just go to Russia because sovereign nations were closing their borders left and right. There was kind of like worldwide unrest going on where it's like, you know, there was another ticking time bomb, not just the deadline of 2048 when the first attack is going to happen. But
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there, yeah, man, it really does make me wonder, like, what would everybody be like if we thought the world was imminently ending?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, his daddy was rich though. That guy had like an $8,000 rifle he was using at the end of the movie.
Yeah, that was a,
Um,
yeah. And honestly, probably more. Yeah. That was a nice rifle. Yeah.
and maybe 12K. I don't, it was expensive. But I like the fact that he actually gets to use his little 50 caliber pistol, his Desert Eagle, at the end of the movie. And I'm surprised that they didn't make another joke about that, like a callback type joke. But also maybe that would have been too much, because I feel like what we were talking about earlier, like that wasn't necessarily a joke that was intended to be funny, but to establish characters.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Maybe.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
That's a thought that I had.
Yeah, Arzo, I think you're taking all this a little too seriously, man. It's it's it fit what was going on in the world of the movie, I think. But yeah, I mean, I definitely appreciate the input and everything. But yeah, like I disagree that all of that was like deal breaking to me. It all like no part of any of that like got rid of my suspension of disbelief or anything. It made sense for the context of what was going on to me at least. But yeah,
And there's, when you have when you have the burden of creating a story,
yeah.
sometimes you don't really have, like, you kind of have to just do what you have to do to kind of make it work.
Hey, real quick, do me a quick favor. I need to pause at like 112. Can you refocus your camera? Can you just like put your hand up to? Oh, there you go. It just did it. It did it automatically. Okay,
on it.
You're the
already
man.
on it.
You
Yeah.
are the man.
I saw that it went out of focus, and I was like, I better fix that. Yeah. So okay, I hate that I have to do that. I need to fix that at some point. But yeah, I mean, there is some kind of liberty, some license that we kind of have to give to filmmakers.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there are some plot holes that are just so glaringly obvious that it's like you really shouldn't, as a professional filmmaker, really shouldn't be making these mistakes.
Yeah.
Especially if you've been working on the screenplay for this long. This many people have read it and nobody said anything.
Yeah. There's a lot that I've seen that made it to screen where it's like, yeah, how did that make it through the first table read? Like, how did they not see that? Yeah.
And time travel movies are always rough. I mean, that there's always these weird kinds of things that they have to kind of do to like make it make sense, but then it never really can.
I do have to say, I wish that Arzo. I wish they would have thought more like Arzo for some of the parts leading up to that, though, because I did think that last fight with the female was just the cheesiest thing in the entire movie. I could have done without a lot of what went on there, and if they were just able to nail her with a trank shot from 100 meters, like I would have enjoyed that so much better than what actually happened. So yeah, I think you're right there. Yeah.
I mean, I think that, and I think that there's some kind of appeal to making the last conflict or the last fight brutal, and that they had to get that close to it. But yeah, it is a little like, and then also the spoilers here. Spoilers for a M. Night Shyamalan movie, Signs, if you haven't seen it.
Okay,
So if you have, then leave and then come back like in 90 seconds. The fact that at the end of the movie, Joaquin Phoenix just beats the shit out of the aliens with a baseball bat.
Yep.
What? At the time, I thought that it was kind of cool that maybe that there wasn't some super crazy like ray gun you had to invent to kill them, that you just beat the shit out of them with a baseball bat. But I was like, that's when I gave up on M. Night Shyamalan. I was like, this is your plot twist now?
No, like it's supposed to show you that humanity discovered they had the strength within themselves, man. The whole time they had the power.
So wait, are you a beatnik or Chopra? Like what was that? What was
I would have tried the Deepak Chopra accent, but I did not want to offend you and everyone you know ever.
Oh, I would have been fine with it as long as it sounds like Deepak Chopra. But I can't even remember what the guy sounds like, honestly. He sounds like a hack. That's what he sounds like.
You just say the words quantum and consciousness with an Indian accent, and you'll start to sound like Deepak Chopra.
That's really all I have to do. Just say consciousness as many times as possible in one paragraph.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I agree that with your perspective. This is actually funny. Like, it's cool. This is actually one of the episodes where we've probably had the most contribution of an audience member.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely
kind of a back and forth dialogue, which is kind of fun, and it adds to the conversation. Yeah, it would have been cool if they had found a way to like set some kind of trap or lure it somewhere, figure something out.
Yeah, because that's what makes humanity what it is. And they that kind of fits the theme earlier of him talking about the science, where it's like, sure, if it was us using intelligence and the tools that we have at our disposal, like that would have fit the theme that they established. Yeah.
Yeah. And, and I was going to say that they couldn't do it because of the setting, but while they're in the middle of like snowy tundra, there's a whole freaking spaceship that just got blown up that they could have used, some of the stuff in there. It would have been nice if it was a little more clever than it just, and also the fact that he sticks it in the arm and it just chews its own arm off. Really?
Yeah, that was
and also the fact that it's like, I understand that they needed to make it interesting for film, but the way that it like disintegrates it I don't know. It looks like gamma particle damage, like the way it looks like radiation is like ripping it apart, kind of like, because doesn't radiation essentially just like rip your DNA to shreds? Isn't that what it actually does?
Basically, yeah.
So like, I don't know if that's really what it looks like, but it just seemed a little silly that that's what the toxin would do. But yeah, I do think
there was another really silly part during that last fight too, that like, unless I missed something, the dad cutting his hand to use the blood to distract how did he know that?
I thought the same exact thing.
Okay, because that was something they set up to the audience way earlier that the dad was not at all a part of. So I was like, for a second, I was like, yeah, how does he all of a sudden know they can smell blood? He wasn't there for that. Like,
yeah, I didn't really. Like, maybe he was trying to like. It was really weird too, because like the scene where he tells his dad to stay, and his dad's like, "This is the one thing I'm good at." Like, what? Killing freaking alien creatures and a crowd? What?
We'll learn about that in the prequel. He's been doing this for years, since Nam. That's what Nam was. The government wants you to think there was something else going on there, but that was actually us fighting off an alien invasion from the White Spikes.
Well, I mean, they are a bit reptilian, so there is that. I mean, and you know what? The thing with the aliens that crashed that were like actually piloting the ship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I almost wish they would have told us more about that, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad they didn't.
I did wonder, yeah, it's like, who was the race then that was, if the white spikes are just the cargo or like a, you know, a weapon or whatever, it's like, yeah, what is the race that was actually, you know, traveling? Yeah.
They looked very reptilian, like the ones that were in the craft. And because I thought it would have been cool if they did something like in Prometheus, where there was like almost like a 3-dimensional like video footage kind of thing where you see, which by the way, Prometheus was an excellent film.
I enjoyed it. A lot of people hate that movie. I enjoyed it.
I thought it was great. I mean, it was just the right amount of dark and just the right amount of alien universe without being too much. But this isn't about Prometheus, hold on, even though it's a great movie.
I have another question about, in that same line though. How'd you feel about Alien Covenant? The one that was basically half Prometheus, half aliens. Did you feel like that was a good balance, or did that go too much into the aliens realm, or?
It was... What was the character's name that Fassbender played?
Shit.
Was it Steven? No. David.
Yeah, David.
It was David. Yeah. I liked that they made David more a part of that one.
Yeah.
But and that he had a real effect on the plot line. Spoilers, sorry. But I liked that you got to see sort of trying not to spoil stuff.
Oh, dude, that movie's old enough. I don't think you need to worry about spoilers for a 5-year-old.
Okay,
movie or
well, yeah, Alien Covenant, like, it is interesting to actually get sort of more of an origin story.
Yeah.
That it was just this humanoid robot science experiment. That, and I think that the way that they came about based on that story, it makes sense in a sort of unexpected way. So I liked Alien Covenant. The thing is that for me, like, I love the Alien films. I love the Alien franchise. Ripley's my what was that word you were using earlier for the weebs?
Your waifu. Ripley's your waifu?
Yeah, Ripley's my waifu. And, you know, I love them. Even the bad acting.
Dude, that's not a bad shirt. Ripley's my waifu would be a sick t-shirt. I mean,
I would actually wear that. And a lot of people, I think, that just loved the original films, with the exception of Resurrection, because a lot of people hated that. I think a lot of them felt kind of betrayed as like purists.
Yeah.
But I'm not a diehard Alien fan, so it didn't really like ruin anything for me. And actually, when I Alien Covenant, we actually no, it was Resurrection was on I don't know if it was on HBO Max or what, but my girlfriend hadn't seen any of the Alien films, so we went through and watched all of them.
That's kind of cool.
And we watched Prometheus and we watched Covenant, which was seeing them all together was actually really cool.
I was going to ask if she liked them, but I hope if she spent that much time she did. At the end of the 7-movie marathon, she's like, "Wow, I really hate these." Like, you could have told me that 14 hours ago. Like, I'm so sorry. Like,
it's like, I honestly would have felt bad. But yeah, I mean, she really enjoyed them, and watching all of them, like just in rapid succession, you actually get a lot more out of that experience.
Yeah,
but,
I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's my essay on Alien Covenant, which if you haven't seen, watch it, and if you've only seen the new ones and haven't seen the old ones, gotta watch the old ones, especially the first one.
Yeah.
Bishop, we salute you. You will be missed. So I wanted to ask, because we kind of went to the final fight we were talking about.
Yeah,
but in the midst of that, did you like Buzzsaw Charlie? Because I thought that was awesome.
I did. Okay, yeah. It was cheesy. But you know, it was cool to me. Yeah, I liked that character kind of like, you know, even realized in the plane that it's like, okay, I'm not gonna hide this time. I'm gonna fight. And then there was the funny tension breaking moment of that's not even loaded. I thought that was well done.
That's one of my problems.
You didn't like that?
He put the magazine in the weapon and the slide dropped. If there was nothing in the magazine, the slide stop wouldn't have allowed the slide to drop.
You could still manually drop it.
What the slide stop? I mean, I don't. I'll go get both of my guns right.
My clock works that way. Yeah. If the mag's empty, it will lock back, but then you can still hit the slide release to drop it.
Because the follower on both of my guns will stop you doing that.
Interesting.
You know what? Not that it's relevant to this episode, but I think that was an HK that he had. I think.
I have no idea.
I'll
Yeah.
look back and see if I can figure out what it is. And maybe that is one that allows you to drop it with the mag empty. But both of my 1911 and my SIG, like the follower will stop you doing that. Like it won't let you do that after the slide locks back.
Interesting.
And a lot of semi-automatic, not striker fired semi-automatic pistols don't. But I'll have to look up what that was then. Okay, then in that case, that might have been a completely irrelevant problem that I had. Well, hey.
Oh my God, can I go to another completely irrelevant problem from a completely different movie that has bugged me for weeks, and I want to know if you actually have an answer for this?
Sure.
Okay. Do you remember at the beginning of Tenet, the protagonist is sitting in the back of the van when they look back and they say, "Wake up the Americans." He releases his slide, and as he releases his slide, a round flips out of the chamber. Not on the slide going back, on the slide going forward. Why? I had to rewind and watch that like 4 times. It had me so confused. Is there a firearm that works that way, and why?
I didn't notice that. I mean, if it was locked back, so it goes clink, and then at the moment it goes clink when it drops the little cartridges.
Yeah, and he does the thing when he catches it, but it's not the slide going back. It's like him releasing the slide forward causes a round to eject that he then catches. Made no sense to me.
I think what this is a good example of is, in the movies, like where there's doing a shot like basketball from like well beyond half court, and they shoot the ball off of the frame, and then someone off camera puts it into the basket.
Yeah.
I think that maybe they ended up screwing up the scene because when the round came out, it might have been somebody off camera just throwing it to him to make it look cool, and they just did it at the wrong time.
I'm gonna have to watch it again, but yeah, it is bugged me since that movie. I was like, why did it work that way? Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
I didn't even notice that. But once again, action films, there's so many of them in the movie. It's such a big part of the way that the movie goes. Like you have to talk about them. But I was gonna mention in the final fight, because we were kind of talking about how it wasn't that great. But bro, the snowmobile trick, come on.
Yeah. That was another one where I literally said, "Oh, come on." Like, because that would be so hard to time that. You would have to I know it's an action movie and Chris Pratt is just an action god apparently. But yeah, that was another one that was like it was an eye roll for me, definitely.
I felt like Bruce Willis helped them write that scene.
True.
Like, that's what it looked like to me, because I saw it, I was like, seriously? But then I was like, I mean, but it is kind of cool. Like, this fight is pretty boring. Yeah. I mean,
it was cool, definitely. But yeah, it did get an eye roll for me. Luckily, a few minutes before that, someone called J.K. Simmons Conspiracy Santa, and that made up for it. That cracked me up. So
That is true.
I hate to agree with
the Conspiracy Santa was
here,
actually really funny.
Yeah, that was a good fucking line. Yeah. Oh, and also we totally skipped over it, but I love that they had to actually bring in like Martin from the high school as the fucking volcano expert, and how the kid and that Charlie being like, I would have killed for a moment like this in high school. Like that was a moment that it was a good comedic break from everything that was going on. It didn't feel too over the top for me, but yeah, I enjoyed that. The levity of that moment I thought was good.
Yeah. I did like it. I thought that was fun too. And I was also kind of happy when they involved that kid as like the callback or whatever. The moment they said something about volcanic ash or whatever, I was like, well, we know what's happening now.
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean, I liked the scene already, and I thought it was cool that like they added him to it, because you could just tell that Charlie was someone that he probably didn't have a lot of friends in high school.
What? No. I expected Charlie to probably be like prom king, man. I
didn't have a lot of friends in high school, and I was kind of like him. So I mean, I don't know. I just thought maybe he was. I thought maybe he was like me, but I guess not.
No,
I guess I'm all alone.
I knew you in high school. Charlie is way cooler than you were. Oh my god. Oh my god. Come.
That is true. I am not going to dispute that at all.
That's my chronological notes. You ready to self-reflect, or you got anything else you want to bring up?
I think that was it. Yeah, I'd already talked about Buzzsaw Charlie. Oh, I did think that. Oh yeah, we already talked about how did Dad know they could smell blood?
Yeah.
Also, man, I
Which
bet
we
that
did bring up
hurt.
a
He
good
cut
point
the
in
hell out
chat
of his
too,
hand.
though. We didn't really talk about it out loud, but we did bring up a good point in chat that like they did have an entire flight over to Russia to share intel. I'm sure that they
Yeah,
could have
that's
just told him like,
true.
oh yeah, by the way, like they smell blood from a long distance. Don't get cut. Like that makes a lot. They didn't show us them telling him that, but I assume that they could have. Yeah.
They showed us that he knew without telling us that he knew.
Yes.
So that's good writing.
Exactly. That's something that we normally like strive for. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay. Good job. Nice screenplay, guys. For that part, the fight was stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
let's self-reflect then. I'm gonna let you go first. I feel like I've gone first the past few times. I want to hear what you learned about yourself from this.
So I got two major things I kind of took away from this one. One of them is not necessarily just for me, but it's like the world kind of as a whole. And this is something that if someone's listening to this far enough in the future, this may not even be something that people care about. Yeah, you like that time travel thing I just did? So this is me speaking to you from the past and the future. So, I think that a lot of us kind of, regardless of our thoughts or opinions on certain things, I think after the whole, global pandemic, the COVID-19, the kind of modern plague almost, I think a lot of us have a sort of a different outlook on things. I don't know how long that's going to last. I don't know how long we're going to think of things, but it was kind of weird. It's been kind of weird thinking about this time last year, or looking at dates in 2020 and kind of looking back to what I was doing then and where I was or where I wasn't, more importantly. And the weird feeling that I think a lot of us got after kind of sort of going back, so to speak, rebuilding the economy to some degree, and some establishments had failed in that time.
Yeah.
So most of the consequences, I think most of the negative consequences, in addition to being human life, a lot of vulnerable parties died.
Yeah.
The economic and business impact of it has been pretty intense. But the thing I was thinking watching this movie was, if they'd won in the future, how do you rebuild after the end of the world? Like, how much worse is that? And for the difficulties that most of us feel like we went through, what is it like when it's at the point where you really do think the world is ending? And I think for a period of time, a few of us did feel that way. So we at least had that impression for a bit. And if it wasn't something that you would straight up say to somebody, yes, the world's over, you had a sinking feeling about some stuff because it was something that we didn't understand yet.
Yeah.
So that's just something that kind of made me think, like, what is it like, a more intense feeling of that. But there's also the fact that I wonder what it's like, because this is morbid. In fact, it's kind of the definition of morbid, because it's related to my own father's death. He's fucking old. He's 80, and he and I were talking about him, and things go wrong. He has a problem, some kind of issue, that it's compounding, and that happens faster and faster as you get older. So, we even had the conversation. I think you and I were talking about this, maybe, that I'd said to him, like we were talking about this, that the sort of dramatic idea of the day that I call and there's nobody on the other end.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me think, what happens if my dad is dead and 20 years from now I see my dad the way that he was when he was young? Like, how weird is that?
Yeah.
Like, what is the emotional impact of that? And also recognizing that if it's in the circumstances of this film, he's probably going to have to watch you die and have nothing he can do about it. You know, like that's, yeah, I recognize I'm being kind of long-winded about this part this time, but it was just kind of weird for me. Like, you haven't seen somebody in 20 years and now you're seeing them the way that they were before.
Yeah.
And you know, what's it like for my dad to see me 20 years older? You know, if hypothetically, if you know, I hadn't seen him since I was a kid, or he hadn't seen me since I was a kid, or the last time he saw me was just yesterday and I was a kid.
Yeah,
like it's, and also there's the other thing. Everybody says it feels that way. Yesterday, you were just a little kid.
Yep.
But literally yesterday, you actually were just a little kid from my perspective.
Those are like a lot of the thoughts I got watching Interstellar, especially like the scene at the end where he's like on his daughter's deathbed and he's the age he was when he left basically, and she's, you know, now, you know, what, 60, 70 years older or whatever. Like, yeah, I think that's an interesting kind of introspective idea to have, though, of just like how, you know, time passing for different people, how that would be, like what time means to people, what life means to loved ones. Like, yeah, there's a lot there.
Yeah, so those are the two things that kind of got out of it. I mean, somewhat self-reflective, and one of them more just like civilization reflective.
Yeah. Mine definitely feels a lot more selfish, but I mean, it fits the theme of the section, so I'm okay with that. Selfish isn't bad, but yeah,
Me too.
I learned so much about well, I guess recently I've had this with other situations too, but this movie kind of really drove home, and especially even in the scene we were talking about earlier with the you know, the speech he gives his classroom and everything, how much like science and science education means to me, how much I value that as just an important part of humanity. I really do think that like what sets humans apart it's literally the knowledge we gain and the tools that we use. That's the whole reason that we are at the top of a food chain, not like in the middle of it, is because of like what we do with our knowledge, with our experimentation. Like, science really is, to me, just incredibly important. It is like the whole reason humanity advances is because we are standing on the shoulders of everyone that has come before us. All of the advancements they made, you're not starting from scratch with everything. You're starting from this body of knowledge that we have put together. And it is insane to me that we are like living in a time right now where there is a very strong anti-science mentality that is becoming a large part of a big section of the population, where I think it's fucking dangerous. Like, whether it's vaccines, climate change, whatever, it's like, scientific literacy to me is incredibly important. And when people start to reject that, I think that is like almost losing our humanity in a big way. Because I feel like that is so much of like what makes us human. And one of the main allegories that I got that jumped out to me from this was like the idea of climate change. How there are so many people that like the concept of like caring about climate change now really is like fighting this future war. That it's like, sure, it may not be something that's going to affect you in your lifetime, but it's like you're thinking about like future humans that are going to be there. And it's like, it's almost like we were talking about the nihilistic kids in the classroom, where it's like not caring. It's like there is like a lot of like centers of a lot of people that it's like that's kind of their mentality about stuff like that, is like, it doesn't matter because it's not gonna. Same thing with like, you'll see that with it really drives me at the wall when it's like incredibly like religious minded people, that if they believe the second coming is going to happen like imminently, they don't have any motivation to care much about the future, because they have a firm belief that like, oh, it's okay, Jesus is coming back in a few years, so all that doesn't matter. And it's like, well, like, what if you're wrong? You know, it's like, I understand, like, I'm not saying that like, you know, beliefs in that is horrible, but it's like, at least like, you know, live in a way and have policies that don't reinforce that, you know. And that to me, like, yeah, I think, I don't know, I learned so much about just, yeah, how much I value science and scientific literacy. Yeah.
And you know, like, I mean, I don't want to turn the self-reflection discussion in this section into too much of a discussion as opposed to just a piece, but when people think that somehow it doesn't matter because, quote, Jesus is coming back, they're actually acting against their worldview, because the whole idea of their worldview is that there is an eternity. So like, it really does matter. Like, and if the whole thing is, well, Jesus is coming back, it's, yes, you do have a religious worldview that's contributing to that, but you're also just nearsighted. You know, that's a nearsighted person. regardless of their worldview. But yeah, no, I mean, I feel you on that. Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I don't know, that seemed like pretty broad to me. That sounded like a civilization reflection to me.
Sure. Yeah.
So it didn't seem selfish.
Cool. Good. I did it.
You're also talking about future generations. That's not selfish at all.
True. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, I guess starting with the like how much science means to me felt, but like I got there. I made it a little larger than myself in the end. Movie crush. I feel again that I've been just like going first every single time. Now we're gonna pick the same one, right?
But, we say something like this every episode, but for some reason it's just like I don't know. Like, I think that what it comes down to is that one of us here has bad taste in movie crushes. That's for the audience to decide.
It's
for the audience to decide. Well, I mean, I don't know, man. I picked some bad ones in the past. Like, admittedly, even said it in the midst of doing it. Like, this is not a good one. So wait, am I? Who's going first on this one?
What's on second?
Who's on first?
Third base.
It's I've been trying to get to third base with you for a long time. I'm glad it finally happened. For me, it was Mary Foster, and Forrester.
Forrester, okay.
I mean, come on. Grew up without a dad for the most part her entire life. For most of her life, went to MIT. Pretty brilliant, really good at making up words about DNA that don't make sense, and using the term denature improperly, I think. Not sure. Pseudoscience, very, very strong. The character itself, sorry, I got on my little...
Now, hold on. Young Murray or old Murray? Which timeline?
What? The young one didn't go to MIT.
Okay, that's fair. Well, she was going to. You could meet her first.
Yeah, he's joking.
I'm definitely joking, guys. Please.
It's a joke. She just seems cool to me. I mean, she's someone who has leadership abilities, someone that I find to be really admirable, someone who can accept without getting her ego wrapped up in it, that the time that she exists in, which is very much real to her, is a time that's going to end, and that she understands the full gravity of the situation, and she's able to accept that in a way that is strong and courageous. And in addition to being just an attractive person physically, there's all kinds of traits about the character Mary that I just thought make her very crushable.
The stubbornness that she calls persistence, I guess, right?
Yeah, that too.
So we didn't pick the same one. I did pick. I made the obvious pick. Dan for me. I thought, first of all, the way Chris Pratt plays the role, super charismatic, just the kind of guy that, I mean, again, the movie crush is who I would want to spend the most time with, basically. Like, I feel like Dan would be an awesome friend. I feel like he's very matter of fact, very regimented, very disciplined, it seems, knows a lot of his shit, but also seems kind of fun. He's science, I like as we just talked about in the previous section, I love talking science stuff. Science means a lot to me. I feel like I could have a lot of really interesting talks with the dude. And plus, I mean, just the actual, the crush factor. I mean, Chris Pratt, I could love you like no woman ever could. No, I'm just talking. but no, the Dan the character just seemed fucking awesome. That definitely my pick. I thought it was the way too obvious pick, but I have to make that one every once in a while. You ready?
I thought about Chris Pratt too. I thought about Chris Pratt also.
Oh, I think about Chris Pratt.
It was gonna be one of them. I knew it had to be one of them. Yeah. So
favorite line. I'm gonna let you go first again. I think there's almost zero chance we picked the same favorite line. This one I don't think we did.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain we did not. Because I think a lot of the obvious ones I think I kind of decided not to pick, and I put them on my notes but I didn't use them. So this one I don't know if I'm gonna be able to really deliver this one the way that the actor did in the film, but this, to me, that the line captured a lot of what I would call the humanity in the film, that it wasn't just an action fuckfest. that
Yeah.
there were like other things happening other than just the insanity, that there's something real happening beneath it, amidst all the flat characters in the film, because there were tons.
True.
um, um, like I said, I can't deliver this. I don't even know if I'm going to try to deliver this like the person that actually did the line. um, uh, I'm so happy I got to see you like this. How you when I was a kid. This is how I remember you.
That was a good one. Yeah. That was a good one.
Touching, man. And that was a moment where Pratt acted his ass off too.
Yeah, I think he always does. I've never seen the dude phone it in, man. He always
wasn't his line, but I recognize it's the favorite line section, but I still want to talk about his acting. Like, recognizing this was not his line, there is this the nonverbal responses to other characters' lines also make movies.
True.
So
yeah.
I want to give him credit in that scene, because his reaction to the way that she delivered it, you help the other actor a lot. And I think that actors respect that level of professionalism, where even when it's not your line, you help build that scene with them.
Yeah.
And I think they complement each other really well. The chemistry too. Great chemistry there.
That's actually perfect, because my line is also one that it was not delivered by Pratt, but I think that his response to it actually also reinforced the scene and made it so much better. I wish Stevie Nicks would show up in her birthday suit with a jar of pickles and a bottle of baby oil. I sometimes I have to pick the silly line for a somewhat serious movie. That line, I cracked up audibly. What? I think my neighbors upstairs were like, "What the fuck is going on?" But yeah, I thought that was fucking brilliant. I loved that.
I became noticeably upset about that line. I hate Fleetwood Mac. Yeah. I can't stand Fleetwood Mac, but the problem is Stevie Nicks' voice. That's what does it for me. So I was like, "Oh, Stevie Nicks, yuck! Hold the pickles."
What? Dude, the jar that I love, and then I love how Pratt asks, like, what? And then he's like, don't think too much about it. Like, I do want to know what the jar of pickles is for. I mean, I do and I don't. I don't know.
The jar of pickles made me realize some things about myself.
Do you know who I actually wish would show up in their birthday suit with a jar of pickles and a bottle of baby oil?
Is this a mom joke?
Scarlett Johansson. No, segue to next week. We are talking about Black Widow next week, and I'm fucking pumped about it. This is like, we talked about this a little while ago. I was starting to check out of the Marvel movies as the pandemic happened. I had no intention of seeing Black Widow in theaters when it was going to be originally released, a year and 3 months ago, or whenever that really was. I was like, you know what? After the Infinity Saga, I think maybe I'm done. I love the movies, but like really wasn't excited about it. But now that it's been a year and I've watched Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, it's like it's really built some of the hype back up for me, and I'm excited to see where the movies start to go. So I'm pumped for this next week. I think it's gonna be fun. Are you in the same boat?
Two of us.
Oh, good. Okay.
That makes two of us. I mean, I have some reservations.
Mm-hmm. Same.
But we will see. I mean, I'm sensibly optimistic.
Yeah.
But I also am very excited. It would be nice to see her reprise that role, because I think that she does a great job and she can act really well, and I'm excited to see what new things we find out about the Black Widow.
Yes, and I'm excited to see, two other actors that I absolutely love are in this. Like Florence Pugh from Midsommar playing her sister. I don't know if they're actually sisters. In the trailer it seems like it might be, but excited to see her in that role. And then I loved David Harbour from Stranger Things. He was great as the sheriff in Stranger Things. I'm excited to see him in the role in Black Widow. So yeah, two other actors that I've loved in a lot of their other stuff that I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not like sold that it's going to be amazing, but I'm excited either way just to see what it is. Well, guys, folks, that is going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast Movie Show. If you are watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the discussion, you have to meet both those criteria. Then you can hit the like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below and tell us how you felt about the Tomorrow War.
if you like football better than football, or if you want to further keep up to date or even join us as a guest on a future episode, please join our Discord. The link is in the description below. We will be live next week on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylaTV.
Thank you everyone for listening and watching, and I hope you have a great week.